Hello, welcome to this week's How's the Market, Pensacola. I hope you had a good Father's Day weekend. Just came off Father's Day weekend. I got a nice shirt. Actually got another couple of items that was kind of cool. I've got a t-shirt problem. I just do. And my wife fed into that problem this past weekend, bought me some cool t-shirts. And got to spend some time with the family. Well, McGuire's are kind of packed, but one of the things that you got to let the cat out of the bag. If you're going to go to McGuire's now, make sure you get on their website and say join the wait list, because the wait list was like 45 minutes to an hour, and I've seen it up as high as 3 hours. So if you're going to go there, join the wait list, and that way you're just kind of, your party's on. You have to check in, as long as there's like 10 people above you. So you got to be there a little earlier than that, but boy, they get you set a lot faster. I'm not here to talk about my good steak. I'm here to talk about real estate. Let's go. I'm a man on a mission. My mission is to help people break through all the noise out there and don't need no permission. I want to help you get to actual truth. Don't you just want the truth? Okay, so as we start off every week, we're going to go down to the computer here in just a second. I start this slide off so we can get a baseline every week. So if we have between 6 and 7 months worth of inventory, that's considered a neutral market. If you have greater than 7 months, it's a buyer's market. Less than 6 months is a seller's market. So when you go asking people, when you hear people out there going, hey, is it a buyer's market? Is it a seller's market? Well, you're going to see here in a minute, it's both. It really just kind of depends. So I hate it when I hear agents, I'm getting my coffee or getting my wife's coffee or whatever, and I hear it's a buyer's market. It's a seller's market. Maybe, just depends on what you're talking about. So, and what the slide doesn't show is anything under 3 months is a hyper seller's market, and anything over 9 months is a hyper buyer's market. So those are some good numbers that you need to remember as we get into this, because both counties actually have some interesting things going on. We're going to start this week with Santa Rosa County. And for those of you, this is your first show, right here on the left is the price point. That's the list price point. And on the right is the month's worth of inventory. So it shows, is it a hyper buyer's market? And as you can see, anything under 300,000 in Santa Rosa County is less than 2.5 months worth of inventory, which makes it a hyper seller's market. What does that mean for the sellers? That means you can push the price just a little. What does that mean for the buyers? It means you need to be pre-approved and ready to go, because as soon as you like something, it's probably going to have multiple offers, especially if it's a nice property. So be ready to bring the A game there. 300 to 350 in Santa Rosa County, still a seller's market, but not necessarily the definition of a hyper seller's market, because it's got 4.2 months worth of inventory. What's always been interesting in Santa Rosa, or I say always, it's the last couple of weeks, is that 350 to 400 drops back down into a hyper seller's market with only 2.5 months worth of inventory. So that's an interesting statistic. Basically, if you've got anything under 400,000, you need to call me. If you're looking to liquidate something under 400,000, you need to call me in Santa Rosa County, because it's a seller's market and we can push that envelope just a little. I think I've told story after story where you don't want to push it too much. It's not, if it's worth 280, could we push it to 290, 295? Absolutely. If it's worth 280, could I push it to 350? No. And if you put it on at 350, it's just going to sit there, because if you look, there's still inventory out there. So that 250 to 300 mark, there's 110 properties active. Now it's only got 2.5 months worth of inventory, because 135 of those properties are under contract. Okay. So you can push it a little. You can't push it a whole lot. That needs to be understood in negotiations for both parties as well. That really does need to be understood in negotiations with both parties. 4 to 450 in Santa Rosa County is pretty much the definition of a neutral market. So if you're selling something between 400 and 450, it's not buyers or sellers. So you pretty much need to get if you're selling it, you need to get your pricing just right, on point, and you need to get your marketing on point to stand out. 450 to 500 drops slightly down to a seller's market, but not much. It's pretty much the definition of a neutral. And then as we get above 500, we're definitely skewing more towards the buyer's side, with 550 to 600 being a hyper buyer's market, over 9 months worth of inventory. And here's that same pocket we've talked about a couple of weeks, between 650 and 700. This was 43 last week, if I remember correctly, or 44, but the fact it's 45 now, we're almost at 4 years. That's 3 3/4 years worth of inventory. So if nothing else new comes on, it's going to take 3 3/4 years to get this off, to get what we have in that price point off the market. And then above 700,000 is back to, they call it a neutral because it's the yellow, but it's actually the sellers. Excuse me, the buyers. That's skewed more towards the buyers. Let's switch over here to Escambia County and see that strange pocket we've talked about a couple of times. All right, pull up Escambia County here. Under 250 hyper sellers market. Under 250 hyper sellers market. You can push the price. Understand that if you're a buyer, that it's going to be tough to negotiate there. I mean, you're not going to get everything. I'm not telling you not to negotiate. These sellers are willing to work. They obviously want to sell the property because they have it on the market. So it's not that they don't want to sell it, but at the same time, you've got to be willing to negotiate both ways. And so I'm talking to both sides of the party on this show is, listen, the sellers need to be willing to negotiate, even though it's a hyper seller's market. Could someone say offer you $2,000 more and ask for $4,000 back in concessions? Yes. And that may be a good negotiation. So both sides need to negotiate there between 250 all the way up to 450. Pretty much it's skewed to the seller side. And if you look, that 350 to 400 in Escambia County is almost neutral. So not quite as there's more negotiation needs to happen here. The pendulum's not so far to the seller side to where they can stand a little firmer. And then here's that pocket. It actually raised again this week. So 450 to 500, 9.8 months worth of inventory. That's a weird number that I've just been watching for almost 2 months now. And I thought it was coming back under control because if I remember correctly last week, we were 8-something months, but now we're back 9.8 months. So that's a weird one. 500 to 600 is exactly 8 months for both of them. 5 to 550, 550 to 600. That's 8 months for both of them. So that's a neutral market. Everybody needs to, it actually skews more towards the buyer side. And then anything over 600 is definitely buyer side. With that same pocket, 650 to 700, if you remember Santa Rosa County's 45 months, Escambia County is 30 months. But the 700 plus in Santa Rosa County was 9 months, if I remember correctly, and this one's 18. So you start getting your 650 and above, and it's just going to take some time. There's not as much of an appetite. And I wonder how some of these numbers are going to start skewing here in the next few weeks, just because if I could talk, hang on, let me try that one more time. As we get past 4th of July, I always see a shift. It's almost like, hey, stuff happens in June, properties come on the market in June, they come off in July, meaning they get under contract, they try and get sold by August, which is when the kids go back to school, stuff like that. So there's definitely changes that happen, and I'll be curious to see what happens. All right, that's what I got for you this week. As always, I'm not trying to do any fluff. It's just, hey, here's the numbers. This is the data. This can help you make your decisions for your family and what you're trying to accomplish. And if you want me to take a look at anything, just reach out. I have no problems. If you haven't watched a couple of my videos, I do stuff all the time. Sometimes I do things for people I can't even help as far as a client is concerned. And, they're out of Central Florida, South Florida. But like I said last week or the week before, I forget, I have gotten a couple of questions. Legal. Hey, what does this contract mean? Because I'm a Florida broker. I cannot give legal advice. So if you ask legal questions, don't be mad when I respond back going, you need to talk to an attorney. I'm just not allowed to practice law. Like I said earlier, I did get into law school. I got accepted into law school. I just decided not to go. All right, do me a favor. If this brought you any value at all, like it, comment, share it. I don't care if you're on YouTube, Instagram, IGTV, Facebook, whatever. Like it, comment, share, and let me know. You can send messages if you want to, if there's any other information you would like for me to put in these weekly updates. Right now, I'm just trying to give you raw data. This is it. Some weird pockets in Escambia County. Have a great week. I'm a man on a mission. My mission is to help people break through all the noise out there and don't need no permission. I want to help you get to actual truth. Don't you just want the truth?